This is Governor Larry Hogan, and I don't always have time to listen to podcasts, but I do enjoy listening to the Maryland Crabs podcast.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
Hello, it's the Maryland Crabs, and this is John Frenay running solo again this week. And it will blow your mind because Tim was with me when we talked with Michael Bell, who's our guest this week, but he was not able to be here when we did the introduction and the outroduction. It's a new word I made up. Anyhow, here we go. If you didn't check out last week's episode, definitely do. We talked with Angie Foucan, who is running for comptroller of the state of Maryland as a Republican. And boy, is she a bundle of energy. And it was just one of the most unique interviews that we have ever done. She was a lot of fun, and I look forward to following that campaign as it moves on. Just a reminder, we have a debate coming up this Sunday, the 15th, at the Ram's Head on stage. It happens at noon, and unfortunately, it is sold out. But if the internet gods are smiling upon us and we don't screw anything up, we are going to be live streaming it on the All Annapolis Facebook page, and we will have it available also on YouTube when we're done. On the debate, we are looking for questions from the general public. While you may not be able to go there, or maybe you are if you've got tickets, do us a favor. If you've got a question specifically to Mayor Panelides or to Gavin Buckley, info@themarylandcrabs.com. And make your question specific to the candidate. I don't want a general one because we're going to ask the candidate specific question. They're going to have 3 minutes to answer it. And then also include your first name and the ward that you live in or your neighborhood or something like that so we can identify that. And hopefully we'll ask your question on Sunday. If you get a minute, please head over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to us so this gets delivered to you every week seamlessly. It just shows up on your phone or your iPad or your laptop, and you can listen to us every week when we drop an episode at noon on Thursdays. And while you're there, if you've got the opportunity to give us a rating, give us one of the highest ones there is. If you've got a few minutes, leave us a review, because actually we do read them and we try to grow from them. And as far as the housekeeping goes, make sure that you're following us on Twitter at MD Crabs Podcast. Our email is info@themarylandcrabs.com. The website is themarylandcrabs.com, and we've got 2 pages on Facebook, both called the Maryland Crabs Podcast. Make sure you're following us in all the places because we've got all sorts of information that's going on there as well. Now, this week, perhaps one of the most fascinating interviews we've ever done. And I say interview, it's actually a conversation. Michael Bell is an award-winning teacher at Southern High School. He teaches art. He is a world-renowned artist. He is an advocate for autism, and oddly, he is an artist for the mob, personal friends with names like John Gotti, and we did verify this. So sit back and relax for the next 50 or so minutes and listen to Michael Bell, who is an art teacher extraordinaire out of Southern High School, talk about his new book, Dual Lives: From the Streets to the Studio, his quest to have his son become the first Golden Gloves champion with autism, and how he deals with creating art for the mob.
When it comes to diamonds, there are 2 things that matter: reputation and value. At Zachary's, you know our reputation. We pride ourselves on providing the best experience for every customer every day, because we wouldn't be here without you. But what you might not know is that Zachary's is the only diamond importer in Annapolis. We cut a check for $500,000 and deal directly with the De Beers site holder to bring you the best quality diamonds. That's just 1 step away from a mine. So by the time a diamond gets to your hands, only 2 people have touched it, not 6. I'm Steve Samaras, and at Zachary's, we've spent decades cultivating relationships around the world to ensure we can offer the best value on a diamond. But the relationships we value most are the ones we create with our customers right here in town.
Zachary's, online at zacharysjewelers.com. If it's a diamond, we're a good place to start.
Hey, we're here at the Commons again, and we have Michael Bell. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
I just saw you last weekend at Kicked Up Fitness for for an event to celebrate a book that you wrote, a huge book that you wrote called Dual Lives: From the Streets to the Studio. Did I get that right?
That's
Didn't screw it up?
That's exactly it.
And, we've got a lot of authors and whatnot in Annapolis. I mean, I don't say everybody writes a book, but there's a lot of people that do write books. But your little hook is that you wrote a book because you're the artist for the mob.
Well,
that's much, or kind of, is that a way to put it?
That's what some people, some people toss that moniker around, mob artists and stuff like that. When you have clientele with the last name Gotti, and when you've done portraits for most of the Sopranos guys and Dominic Capone, who's Al Capone's great nephew, then I guess it's a small little niche that I carved out for myself in the art world somehow, And
that is a niche right there. You're not,
it is.
Not a lot of competition with the mob artist.
Well,
no.
Okay, so you carved yourself out as a mob artist, but the other niche that you've carved out is a nationally recognized art teacher.
Yeah, two very polar, different lives.
How did they go over in the old neighborhood, by the way? I got to paint the picture. You're a big dude. I mean, you got this guy's. He's sitting across the table. He's ripped. He's got tattoos up and down. He's got the jewelry, and he's smiling. But he could rip off my head without even thinking about it. How do you go to the guys you grew up with and just go, "Hey, I'm an artist"? How did that go over?
Well, it's funny. A lot of when I tell people you're a teacher, a lot of the guys, even Peter Gotti, who wrote the foreword for my book, he knew about my art for a long time. Him and his brother John. I did the cover for his for John's book. It's coming out with them.
And John, that's not me. That's Gotti.
John Gotti, yeah, did the cover art for his book. And they knew me as an artist, but I told him I'm a teacher. You're a teacher? Sure you are. Yeah. Sure you're a teacher. No.
Go get your shine box.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a teacher. And it was funny. One of those, those dual lives, they happen a lot. I've had a lot of national award winners. In 2015 or 2016, I'm up in Carnegie Hall, New York City. Sienna Broglie, one of my students, is being recognized and taking a bow at Carnegie Hall. It was, one of the most spectacular things in the world. She had a national gold medal that she received.
And she's from Southern High.
From Southern High. 1% in the nation gets this honor. And so I'm up there, and I keep leaving. I keep getting text messages. I keep having to step outside. And her mother says, why does, says my wife, why does he keep having to go outside? He's got to take a phone call. She goes, wow, it must be important. My wife's, John Gotti's calling him, and he knows he's in town, and he wants to get together with him, and he doesn't realize probably that he's inside Carnegie Hall right now, so the service is bad, and he's got to step outside, but it's a call you got to take.
So how does a guy like you end up you're from Jersey, from northern Jersey outside of Manhattan, and you're in Southern Maryland, or as the guys that I went to school from Long Island, they used to call it Maryland because you're a big Mary, is what they used to say. That is like a sitcom waiting to happen. I mean, the fish out of water.
It is, it happened many years ago. I was telling John, I was hired as just on a whim. I'd moved down here. I thought I was getting hired in Hartford County, Bel Air, and job fell through at the last minute. Southern High had a part-time position open, and so I took it. It was one of those situations. My mother's like, listen, you got to get a job, a real job.
You get the hell out of the house.
You have your degree. You got to get a job. And at that point, I was out of the house. I was living in Manhattan at the time. And
now, what was your degree in? It was in art?
In art education, yeah. I eventually went back for art ed. And it was one of those things where when teaching was the last thing I was going to go into. But I took a class. It was my junior year in college, and I had gotten in a lot of trouble when I was a kid. And I wasn't thinking I was going that, teaching route at all. I stepped into a classroom, and it was funny. I could see the faces of all those kids in their eyes. I saw myself. Like, I kind of empathized. I knew what they were going through. I could tell right away. And as I started talking with them, I'm like, wow, you know what? Maybe if I went into this, I could catch a kid before they fall, catch a kid before they do something really, tragic and really help them. And
the welcome back Cotter approach.
Yeah, I guess, and so Southern High, I went there, and it was just it was a great opportunity. And there was only 2 art teachers at the time, and so I knew the program had an opportunity to grow, even though it's a small school in the county. And now here we are.
Growing up, did you want to be a teacher? Did you want to be an artist? Did you want to be a mobster?
I wanted to be I really wanted to be an artist. My grandmother was an artist. She was a self-taught artist from Lyndhurst. And she put the first paintbrushes in my hand, and my parents used to take me to all the local art shows. And so when my grandmother started winning shows, I started getting entered into shows, and I won my first art show at the age of 5. And so for me, that was
okay. So the art was in the blood from the get go.
Yeah, from the get go. But the teaching came later. But
and then what to do with the artist? Starving artist or starving teacher was the choice.
Yeah, I mean, I always found a way. A lot of people do think, those that either it's those that can't do teach or those type of things. But for me, it's always been the other way around. Like, I always wanted to find a way to make it as a gallery artist. If I'm going to be in the classroom telling kids, you should be an gallery artist, you should go out there and try to have shows. Well, if I'd never had a show, how am I supposed to tell them?
True.
And even writing this book, I had a kid, just not too long ago said, I'd really like you to read this, poem I wrote. I really got ripped apart in English class over it. And I read it, and I thought it was fantastic. I said, how many, has your English teacher been published? What have they published lately? What have they produced? What have they done? He said, nothing as far as I know. I said, then how do you know they're right? Yeah. I said, well, now I'm a published author, so I can give you some advice. I got to tell you, I think it's pretty good. You should keep going.
So when you're growing up, what are your influences? I mean, so you had the raw talent, and you had your grandmother, and you had the support early on. But what did you draw influence from around you?
Well, I mean, definitely. I always loved New York City so much. You going in and out as a kid all the time, and
so much that you kept your accent this many years later.
Yeah, the streets. I mean, I loved it. I mean, and growing up, of course, some people idolize ball players and such, and we idolize guys like John Gotti Sr. and people like that were doing things like that in the neighborhood. So I guess it was why I started drawing them in the first place, and eventually I guess drew them into my life. I mean, we definitely had some colorful characters in my family too, so I wasn't a stranger to the life or anything like that.
Just a story I heard the other day, speaking of gangsters. I think it was Vinny the Chin, it was about 15 or 20 years ago. I think he wasn't the one who walked around in the bathrobe, was he?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
So I think this woman got mugged in, I guess it was Brooklyn or wherever he lived, and the cops found the guy pretty quick, and they were just laughing when they're driving to the station going, do you know who you just mugged? That's the mother of Vinny the Chin. And the guy was just like, just shoot me. Shoot me now.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's funny. Everybody almost has a mob story. I mean,
I'm sure.
The Philadelphia mob, you had Nicky Scarpo.
Yeah.
And when he was in jail, Phil Leonetti was his nephew, took over. And he was my neighbor in my mom's house down at the Jersey Shore.
That's right. You're a Philly guy. That's right.
And it was funny. People were like, oh, doesn't that scare the shit out of you? I'm like, oh, damn no, man. That's like the safest place in the world to be.
It is. And, it's really funny. When I started writing the book and we were struggling, our son was just diagnosed with autism. And it was kind of a tough pill for everybody to swallow and try to figure out how we could help him. I was expecting maybe, especially being a teacher of the year in the county, in the state, I was expecting lots of support from even the local school system. And what I got was the opposite. What I got was nothing. Nobody wanted to help. And it was funny, the guys that everybody labels as these thugs and killers, like guys like John Gotti, they were the first ones. John, when he heard we were doing a fundraiser to help out the Bowen Foundation, And
Bowen Foundation's great.
Yeah, and so my son was going to go there, and I just happened to be in Nashville, Tennessee, doing a keynote speech that weekend. So my wife was going with my son, and he was going to say a little hello to the crowd, you know, and I was auctioning off some prints of my artwork, and John caught wind of it, that I was, through his brother Peter, that I was going to be doing this thing, and called me up 8 o'clock in the morning. Heard you're doing an auction. What do you need? I said, listen, I don't need anything. I said, the thing's tomorrow night anyway. I said, there's no way. He said, listen. He said, I'm going to call Big Steve. I'm going to send you over a couple books. I'll autograph them, sell them for whatever you can for your kid. They'll be there. We'll overnight it. I'll pay for whatever. And he got them there. And they were there in time for the thing. And, you know, it's stuff like that. It's very selfless that I didn't see from my own colleagues. You know, it's crazy.
Well, they say the same thing. We've interviewed a bunch of people who've grown up in public housing here in Annapolis, and they'll say that, you know, that they're not getting help from the city, or it's kind of the guys who are the criminal element, but they are the law and order in a lot of these places.
And sometimes
maybe
it's
not
the
so
people,
much now, but
and the people that, a lot of the times I find it's the people that really don't have it that give the most. You know, that willing to
you
help
see
you
that
out the
you see that
most.
all the time. You give a down and out homeless guy $100, and he'll probably give 50 of it to the next the next
absolutely.
down and out homeless guy or something like that. Now all right, so you're down here at Southern High. You're teaching art, winning awards, county teacher of the year, state teacher of the year.
I was finalist in the state teacher of the year, but then ended up winning 3 other national teacher of the year awards later. So not resting on my laurels.
And Gotti had nothing to do with those, right?
Absolutely not. No.
But you've been here for a long time too.
This is my 23rd year at Southern High.
Well, when did you start working, for Gotti's, and when did that come out? Was it during your career of teaching, or was it?
I mean, I had done pictures for years. His daughter Angel, I did some commission work for her way back when, and it was funny. There was I had written a letter to him, to Gotti Senior, when he was in prison. It was funny when John Jr. was coming out with his book, and I was on the phone with Peter, and I was talking to him, and I said, when he called me up to do the commission, I said, what was the thing? I said, was it all the work that I had done that, drew you to commission me to, do this piece? And he said, he goes, it was partially that. He said, but he said, with the deal breaker, he said, we couldn't go with anybody else for this thing. He said, when my father went terminal with cancer in Marion, he sent back, he had a few things left in his cell. He said, everything else came back. And he said, and one of the few things that he kept that came back to the house was one of the last things he held on to was the letter that you wrote him. And he said, cool. And he had, the pictures that you drew. He said, so, if for whatever reason you mattered to him, so therefore you immediately mattered to us. And he said, I still keep that letter to this day, and I have it in the safe, and my son has it and has kept it. So
wild. So what are your influences because you're in a niche definitely, but looking around, what are the other artistic influences that you had, if any?
Well, I never got into it to paint mob portraits or anything like that, but I do like I do love narratives. So my influences are people like I love Edvard Munch, who painted he painted a lot of narrative series work. I also love Eric Fischl, who I became friends with. He was selling his paintings for millions and millions in New York, and he wrote a nice piece for the cover of my book. He works very narratively also. He covers suburbia, and I cover my own genre of crime and so forth. We had some funny conversations. He would say to me, what happens? He goes, when my painting for like John McEnroe or somebody like that goes wrong, they might complain. He said, but what happens if yours go wrong? I said, so far so good.
Well, John's got a temper, though, in all fairness.
He does, but we
don't go there.
I said, listen, like you said, I couldn't be the safest person alive,
I'm looking at your tattoos on your arms. Are they your artwork?
I designed them, and then some of them. I'm not asking whether you're home carving. Yeah, some of them I designed, and a few of them my tattoo artist he came up with when I gave him a little what I'm looking for. But it was actually this first one. This is the first big one I got. Is this St. Michael's tattoo? It's a half sleeve that turned into this full sleeve. There was a student at Southern back in 2012. He got in a lot of trouble. He got arrested. Calls me. Okay, I get a phone call.
That's amazing.
I'm in jail. Can you help me out? So I said, yeah, sure. And it's funny. Had I not been in trouble myself as a kid, I probably would have not known how to help this kid. And so I was able to secure him a lawyer, and I had to do some artwork for him to, this guy, Joe Lawman, who's local, he agreed to help him out if I did some artwork for him to keep the fees low for the kid.
Oh, that's cool. You traded out.
Yeah, we traded out, and so I did some artwork for him, and in exchange, he really helped the kid, and it took him all year, but he finally, he beat it, and he was, he's free to this day. But this priest gave me this St. Michael's prayer card when I was in a lot of trouble as a kid, and he said, this, I hope this will help you. And I kept it on me for literally like 20 years, and it was all crumpled up in my pocket. And when Tommy got in so much trouble, I love this kid, and I slid it to him, and I said, here, a beautiful man, a really genuine man gave me this. He said it would help me. It did. I said, I hope it helps you, and it did. So I didn't have my prayer card anymore, so I got the St. Michael's half sleeve.
What kind of trouble we get into a kid? Is that going to get, provided that it's not going to get you fired from? That's
over now. Long before I ever got into teaching. Just simple
kid stuff.
Yeah, kid stuff. Kid stuff.
The Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic, Hispanic Catholic experience is something that's kind of unique. I think, just like I think it's akin to Judaism. I mean, they're kissing cousins and all, but I think that once you go through that as a kid, with the Catholic schools or the priests or the nuns and what have you, it's I grew up Irish Catholic, you grew up Italian Catholic, and it's funny. Religion doesn't have any place in my life now, but it was very defining for me. Yeah. Growing up, I mean, even for the superstitions and for the the feelings of guilt or the feelings of accomplishment. Sure. But it's amazing how even if you look at the mafia or even the people who turned out they got themselves in a bad situation, that Catholicism is still very defining, whether or not it carries through to adulthood or not.
Oh, it is. I mean,
I was watching what was that movie where the kids go to detention or to juvie?
Oh yeah. Sleepers. Great film.
Yeah, and it's funny is I was never a bad kid like that, but you could relate to it because it was the same way you grew up.
You make one bad decision can really change everything.
It's funny you talk about that, and with Ion Annapolis, I've had a couple stories. There was a kid up in Arundel Mills Mall at one point. He jumped in the back of a car, and he intoned that he had a gun. He didn't. Right. Ended up taking somebody's cell phone and wallet or something like that. Ended up getting caught. Served 5 years. Got a 5-year sentence. 6 months was what he had to serve. And he called back and he called me. He said, the article that you got is really causing me problems. Right. And this is 6 or 7 years later. He says, is there any, and he was very polite and very nice about it. Is there anything you do? And I said, okay, well, let me check. I went and I looked and made sure that he wasn't bullshitting me. Yeah. Sure. He served his time. He was no more trouble. I mean, he had a lot of speeding tickets. Yeah. And I just called him back. I said, okay. I said, I took it off the site. Everything's off of my site. I've submitted it to Google. It'll come off of Google. I can't do anything about any other publication. Right. And there was this pause. I'm like, hello, are you there? And then he's crying. And he's like, are you kidding me? This is such a break for me because, I can't get a job. I can't do this. I can't do that. And he was going, I said, yeah. I said, hey, everybody,
everybody makes
everybody screws up.
You can see that. It was. I was in a situation with you in college. I was, I did a lot of really stupid shit in college. That really,
everybody, yeah.
But I mean, stuff like looking back.
That would be a good episode. Stupid shit you've done in college.
Yeah, but there's stuff where you look back and you're kind of laughing. But there's stuff that you look back and you're like, what the hell? I mean, that could have been really serious.
Could have been, yeah. Most people do have gotten away with whatever.
So I had a teacher. She called me, and because I do marketing now, and she was like my mentor, and I was the guy that just reeking of cigarettes and booze in the back, and all the kids in my major were all scrubbed dorm kids, and they're all nice, but I was the one that would stumble in hungover, and she was really hard on me. So she called me a couple of years ago and she says, hey, would you come teach a class, as an adjunct? So I did that a couple times, and I was hanging in her office a few weeks ago, and I'm 47. And she turns, she just turns and goes, you know why I was that hard on you in school? I'm like, yeah, I do, and I'm sitting in teaching this class, and I'm looking in the back, and there's that kid who's just hungover and just a bad attitude, and I'm like, that's the one.
That's me.
That's me. That's the guy.
Well, those are the rough kids. I mean, those are the ones that I get along with the most, that I can identify with, and I can help them because quite frankly, most of the teachers I know, they haven't been through the kind of stuff that I've seen, this kind of stuff that I've been around, so they can't relate to the kids or to the exactly what they might be experiencing or going through. I mean, chances are anybody that's acting out, there's a reason for it. It's not just them being disrespectful.
Mentorship goes any number of different ways. It just doesn't need to be, Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect to look up to.
Exactly.
It's okay, here's Michael Bell. It looks like he may have, had some interesting stories when he was younger and got his shit together. Yeah. Here's, it can be any number of different things. Yeah. When did the book come into play? Dual Lives.
Well, the book came into play. It was exactly, I would say, it was 2 years ago. It was a series of of incredible events and tragic events all at once. It was like the perfect storm. I had just come off of my 7th national award winner in art, given to just one student artist in the entire country. We made our 3rd trip back to Carnegie Hall, which was, it's unheard of. It doesn't happen.
How many do that, would you guess?
None. I mean, nobody.
Okay.
Nobody really does it. We had our 5th year back to back where I had over $2 million in scholarship going out to kids. So $10 million in scholarships in 5 years. And so I knew I had done something important. When you say $10 million in scholarship, is that to the kids that are in the art? Kids in the art, yep.
So these are
in my National Art Honor Society. Those are the only kids I really track. There's probably more.
So these are art students that are getting $10 million.
Yeah, $2 million a year, pretty much on average, to go off in offers to go off to all these different places. Then, in 2013, just a couple years prior, it was actually 1 year prior to me starting the book, I just came off 3 national awards. One in Brooklyn for the William U. Harris Award. The College Board awarded me that. I went up there with the superintendents, the assistant superintendents, the whole entourage. We did that in Brooklyn. And then Fort Worth, Texas was presented with the National Art Honor Society National Sponsorship of the Year. Then after that, down in Washington, D.C., the Washington Post Agnes Meyer Award. So it was like this, crazy stuff was going on, and it wasn't something that I sought out. It was just something that was happening, and I said, "Wow, I really need to probably document this." As I'm speaking to colleagues around the country, I started doing keynotes, did a TED Talk.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, people were saying, you need to share the story. How did you build a program like this? How did this happen? So I started writing about it, and then it was, then the tragedy hit. We had, our son's autism diagnosis. That very same week, I got a phone call from my buddy Louie, who,
of course, Louie.
Yeah, he's a great buddy of mine from
never Kevin or Todd.
No. And he was like, almost like another brother to me. And his daughter, who was 11 at the time, she had fought a bout with cancer for about 2 years, going on 2 years. And she had gotten in remission for a little while. And then he called me. It was literally the week after our autism diagnosis, and said, "I need you to come to Philly, to CHOP right away." And I said, "Well, I just dropped my son off at SAC. I'll call Lisa when she gets back." He goes, "No, now." He said, "They're giving her maybe 2 to 3 days max." I said, "You got to be kidding me." So I literally left with the clothes I had on my back. I called my wife. I said, "You got to pick up Carm from SAC, and I'm going up to Philly, and I don't know when I'll be back. It might be a couple days." Well, it lasted 10 days, and I literally slept there on the hospital floor next to her bed, didn't leave the hospital the whole time. We just changed my clothes, washed my clothes nightly at the end of the hall. And that experience was just, she passed 11 days, and it was seeing her at the same kind of age as my son. It was just being there in the room, holding her hand as she passed, gut-wrenching. I never would wish that on my worst enemy. So it was all that, coming home right after that, and I said, I got to get all this out. I got to share all these stories, because they're all relate. They all made me who I am as an artist, as a teacher, as a person. Right. And where do we go from here? I figured I got to write this now, because now I'm going to devote all my time and energy towards my son. And I'm not going to be, if there's more national awards come for these kids, beautiful, but it's no longer my focus, my journey, It's that kind of.
So how do you make the transition from artist to writer, like conceptually, or from a workflow? That's very, very different, because as an artist you're fairly abstract with your thought, whereas in writing you can be abstract, but then you there's a lot of discipline. Not saying that you don't with the painting. I imagine I'm a lot like John. I think you seem like you're a self-made guy that taught yourself how to do a lot of things. I just go into a different And that's what I did. I've always been the one to teach myself how to do stuff. I didn't know how to write a book, put it together, but I sought out people to help me along the way and help me with, certain maybe grammatical things or things like that. But I did it all myself. How long did it take you? Just under 2 years. Okay. It took me a year to write it and about 8 months to edit and get it published. I am not finished it yet. Although it is autographed, damn it all. I got it autographed this weekend. But it is a big book. It is 480 pages. It's more with pictures, but yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of pictures. Dual Lives from the streets to the studio. Yeah. Amazon? Yeah, it's on Amazon. Just type in Dual Lives and Michael Bell, it comes up. You got it
Any local stores, do you know?
No, I haven't done anything locally. I've just, I wanted to release the softcover version on my own, see how that does.
Right.
From there, I'm going to look into doing the audiobook, doing the ebook, and eventually the last stop will be the hardcover when we really roll things out big. So this was my first stop doing it at the boxing gym was the book signing. That's really the only thing I've done in Maryland. I've done one in Delaware and another one in PA. Yeah,
Kicked Up Fitness, which is off of Lincoln Drive.
Yeah, right around the corner. Yeah.
You held this fundraiser, which is let me hold off. We'll tease the fundraiser for a second, but and we'll get into that because that's an incredible story that your son has going there. But what was it like writing the book? I'm going to go get a beer because we didn't tell people we were drinking tonight. We're doing this at 6 o'clock at night, so we're drinking tonight. But what was it like writing the book? I mean, how did you piece it together? I mean, you've got all these thoughts from your years.
Yeah, it was, I'm an evidence collector, so I save a lot of everything, and I saved a lot of stuff from the beginning of even my teaching career. I had some amazing letters from people throughout my profession that I looked up to that kind of mentored me along the way, and so I was able to really hold on to those memories. I've probably blown through about 20 visual journals in my life too. I keep these incredible sketchbooks with drawings, notes, and so I literally had to go back through them and really piece together my journey in education. As far as the art, it's pretty easy. I can catalog it through my website and see all what I did when, and it takes me back to what I was thinking about then. But the visual journals really helped reaching back out to people that I want to make sure I got certain stories right, because your recollection is always comes out a little different than maybe what certain things are. And I had to reach out, and I hit some very tough family moments in there too that I described in the book that it wasn't easy to write about, and I know it wasn't easy for my family to even read about. Right. But I thought it would be more authentic to show how people love, how people fight for each other, with each other, against each other at times.
Now, how was the reaction? I mean, when you wrote this book, okay, you've been at Southern High. They'd finally gotten over like this guy from New York coming in with
I guess, a long time. I think they just think it's funny, it's, but I don't know what they think. But.
I mean, obviously a big, huge part of your life is the award-winning and the program that you've really developed at Southern High School. That's the other half of the dual. That's a huge part
of the journey, yeah.
That's the other part of the dual live.
Are you totally a Maryland guy now? Is it like in your blood?
No.
What do you do for pizza?
I don't.
Your kindred
homemade.
Spirit.
My father-in-law, he jars 8 bushels of Roma tomatoes every year, so we make our own sauce and do our.
I'm the same. Yeah, for an Irish guy, I'm a decent.
Well, I'm half Irish too. My father's he's from Northern Ireland. He actually came over when he was 10, so I have best of both worlds, best of both tempers.
Yeah, I get very impatient with pizza in Maryland. There's very few places that are even passable. And I always had this argument on Facebook when there's no pizza. It's like they had one recipe and they just handed it out to everybody in town. But for an Italian guy,
it's rough. There's no Italian food around here.
No, Astoria. I can't.
Astoria is not bad.
Yeah, it's Northern Italian, but that's really good.
Is it?
Yeah,
I haven't been.
Other than that, no.
Yeah, we don't really. If we can make, my wife's
the guy's a
fabulous
teacher.
cook.
The guy's a teacher.
My wife's a fabulous cook. So if we can make it homemade, we'll eat it home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's something else, we'll go out. If it's Mexican, we'll go out. Something else I don't make.
Our fraternity was half Irish, half Italian, and the Italian guys go, no mix in the kitchen. But they taught us how to cook. I can do an incredible pasta carbonara.
But how did the school react to you writing this book? I mean, obviously.
Well, it was funny.
I mean, what if they came? I mean, obviously they allowed you to.
Well, I didn't ask them,
right?
But I did do the smart thing, and when I just finished it, I called up Christy, a MSNEA attorney. And I said, I need you to read this manuscript.
What's that, a union attorney?
Yeah, she's a Maryland State, national education attorney. And I said, I need you to read this manuscript. And I need you to tell me if there's anything I need to take out, if there's anything I need to tweak. And she had me take out a couple little things. But other than that, she said, you're good to go. She said, they can't come after you for what, your experiences are and what your take on things are. And she said, you didn't say anything, defamatory about anybody.
You've lauded the school, the Arundel County schools in Southern High, certainly.
But they. I don't really honestly know what they think. I don't even know if they know about it because it's not something that out there plugging me on it or anything, so I'm not even worried about it,
Okay.
I'm not going to make my money through them anyhow. I don't worry about it only because it's one of those things where I wrote this to be, and if you look at the reviews on Amazon, you'll see the people that are talking about it. They are inspired by it, and I wanted it to be inspiring to teachers. I wanted to even expose the things that are really wrong with the U.S. public education system and what's really should be happening that isn't happening. And it all comes down to caring. I mean, it's so simple. It's such an easy formula.
I'm a huge fan of Dan Carlin. He's a podcaster that does a history series, and he does like a current events series. He's phenomenal. And I think everyone's got their own criticisms of the educational system, but his was great. He said the problem with our educational system, it doesn't have to do with the teachers, doesn't have to do with the budget, but it's the curriculum. And that's to say, he said that we are operating off and I come from a family of teachers, so they I guess I've never talked to them about it because that's thin ice. But they said that it's a educational system that was designed for the Industrial Revolution, that you're teaching workers how to work, simple math, how to read invoices, all these things.
Sure.
So you throw in a little bit of history, and I'm a writer, so literature is important to me, and syntax and English and grammar, that's all important to me.
Yes.
But they're saying that now that it's very utilitarian.
Yeah.
Now you as an artist and teaching art and everything, you are kind of that addition.
As an artist, you need to know history. I mean,
right.
It's so important. Just like a writer, you need to know
Well, to me, it's interesting because you look at the context. I was listening to a great series. It's Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, and he was talking about, and it's 35 hours on World War I. And he was talking about just the rain of fire and the devastation and the burning and the holes. And he was saying J.R.R. Tolkien was a soldier in that. And if you look at what he was surrounded by, which was the fire and the brimstone and everything, and you compare that to like Mordor in Lord of the Rings, you can see his influences. The same goes for Hemingway, who who's an ambulance driver in the Spanish Civil War. But as an artist, you have to look at certain pieces that you're looking at a certain artist and go, those are the influences that influenced their work. You have to know the history of what they were going through when they drew that.
Yeah.
There's an interesting, what's the Scream? That's the famous one.
The Everett Monk. Yeah.
Right. So they said the background, which is, I think it's that burnt umber, that one. But I was reading an article about that recently where they said it could have been, there was a volcano eruption earlier that year, which in Scandinavia and Northern Europe
could have created
they created. So
color.
For him, it wasn't something emotional. It was something he was actually
something real. Sure.
Yeah. It's amazing to me, like if you look at someone like you or someone like Banksy or someone that's out there that just where they don't have the formal education, or at least they might have the influences, but it's really kind of drawn from their everyday experiences.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm mostly self-taught. I really I didn't learn any formal training until I had some great college professors that kind of took me under their wing and showed me a few things. But up until that point, I was just doing it on my own, figuring it out on my own, making money on the side, doing murals and things like that, building my career gradually, slowly. Who you meet, everybody kind of knows everybody in my niche world too. So, I hop on board, and my wife and I would take a plane ride out to California. We're going to do this out there. So we'll do that. And then whatever, it's charity benefit, whatever it is, we would always go, and it would always lead to something bigger. So I always tell that to kids, always go, face your fears and just go.
So you kind of have the best of all worlds right now. I mean, you've got the career, which by all accounts is incredibly rewarding. I mean, but you also have that kind of jet set.
Absolutely, still
celebrity sort of. I mean, you like if you had to assemble your life, you've kind of taken the best parts of each one.
It's great, and a lot of people don't understand it. They think it's funny, like I'll be, I'll spend a weekend. I'm out doing stuff with this celebrity, that celebrity. I'm back to work Monday morning. I'm still got to be in there,
in Southern
7
Maryland.
o'clock. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're like, "What are you doing tomorrow? Why don't you just hang out?" No, I got to go back to work. You do? Oh, okay. But same token, I mean that's what makes like the book authentic, because I'm not somebody who's retired and decided to write a memoir. I'm still in the trenches, so I'm living it and breathing it every day with everybody else.
You remind me of that what was that book with by Pat Conroy, The Water is Wide? They made it to the movie Conrack.
No,
it's about the white teacher who goes to, in the 60s. It was Pat Conroy who wrote Prince of Tides and Lords of Discipline. But it was a memoir, essentially, when he moved from Beaufort, South Carolina, across to the Gullah Islands, which is just the barrier island. And he was teaching the poor black kids who in a one-room classroom, and it was him like just totally out of his element, teaching in a place that was completely alien to where he grew up, and just kind of reaching each kid.
Well, think about it. I mean, at Southern High, we have 1,100 kids. It's the smallest school in the world. We don't have a hotbed for artists.
I just wish that there was video on the internet the first day you showed up at Southern High. I mean, Southern High is just so rural. So okay, you want to call it?
I'm getting flashes of my cousin Vinny.
So it's just, and all of a sudden this guy this tattooed guy from New York that's built like a small Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up and says, "Yo, I'm your new arts teacher."
Well, it's funny that the woman that I took over as the department chair for, she was actually a Brooklyn girl. She was from Brooklyn. She was the only art teacher.
My wife's from Brooklyn
originally.
She'll cut you.
Roxanne. And so it was funny. So she kind of right away took me under her wing, and we hit it off.
You bonded.
Her and Jean in the department, we hit it off. And then now I've built a crew that's amazing. I have Marlene Kramer, who's been with me for 17 years. She's like my work wife. She's amazing.
How big is how many teachers in the art department?
So we have 5. We're the biggest art department in the whole county. I mean, South River right down the street got 2,300 kids in it. They don't have 5 art teachers. So we have 1,100. So we're rocking and rolling.
That's impressive. What's your goal here? I mean, how long? I mean, you've got a couple of years. Obviously, you're young enough to before you retire and stuff like that. I mean, where is Michael Bell looking to go?
I'm not sure yet. I'm just taking it one year at a time. Every year, everybody at the school they joke with me. They're like, "Was this your last year? What are you moving on to?" But they think it's almost
23 years.
I mean, people think
could happen any time.
Short timer.
But people think you're doing it for the minute say I sell 1 million books tomorrow and I have $1 million in my pocket, that you're going to stop teaching tomorrow. I mean, I don't do it for that. I don't, you know what I mean?
Tell him when Scorsese calls you and says he wants to make it a movie. He says, "No, I'm freaking out of here." Okay.
Well,
there's the.
I might have to take a few personal days that year.
What's your favorite mob movie? This is so stereotypical. We got the Italian guy here. We're talking in pizza and mob movies.
Oh man, there's a bunch.
Goodfellas is out of it. That's of course.
I mean, definitely love The Godfather 1 and 2.
But have you seen the recut, the deluxe version?
No.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. I watched that literally 10 times last year, where he re-edited it, the 1 and 2, so it's all in order. The whole thing, it's absolutely like from Sicily on, and it's all in.
It's like a 6-hour movie.
Oh, yeah, it's phenomenal. I love it every time it's on.
And I love the classic, Pope of Greenwich Village. I love that. It's a classic.
My thumb, Charlie. Took my thumb.
And Mickey Rourke is funny. He was at my unveiling. It was the first time I met him at my painting unveiling with John Gotti.
There was no more beautiful man than Mickey Rourke in the 80s.
He's funny, man. He's a great guy too. He's a great guy at my thing. I hadn't expected to meet him. He just happened to be in Don Miguel when we were getting ready to do a big unveiling with everybody. And, John says, I said, "Oh man," I said, "Mickey's over there." I said, "Let me go say hello." John, no. He comes to us. And I forgot who I was with for a second. I said, "I understand, and so he comes over, and sure enough, I was like, I'm not starstruck. I've been around enough of these guys. No, I could care less. But Mickey, I always loved his work.
I love this stuff. Yeah.
Loved his work. And
I'll even go deep.
I was like,
Johnny Handsome.
Oh yeah. I was like, let me just. I said to my wife, I said, would it be weird for me to ask Mickey for an autograph? Because I've never asked any of these celebrities for an autograph, really. I said, but I love this guy. Before I could say anything, I had some extra prints because it was Christmas, and it was the day before Christmas, and we were up there, and so I pulled out a print. And I said, "Hey, Mickey," I said, "I have an extra one here for you. It's of the book cover with John Gotti Sr." He goes, "Oh, that was the chief right there." He said, "Bailed me out of numerous gems." He said, "Love that man." He said, "Tell you what," he said, will you do me a favor? Will you sign it? And will John sign it? Will you sign the print for me?" So he beat me to a punch. He asked me. I couldn't ask him after that. I was just like, I felt so weird.
All right, so we're
Bronx Tale.
So we're here.
Bronx Tale, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
So if I got that right, though, Mickey Rourke came up to you and asked you for your autograph, right?
Yeah, asked me to sign the print. And I was getting ready to ask him. I mean, I was like, you got to be kidding me. It was the greatest.
Yeah, he's a weird one. He's
nice,
like that, he's
nicest
like that,
guy though.
He's like that Irish guy who got caught in like the Italian mob.
Oh yeah, well he had a temper, and unfortunately he's a fighter too, and he's
a bruiser now.
He hit a couple of the wrong guys that you're not supposed to hit, and had to get John had to help him out, get him unjammed up. Sure.
I love that guy.
Let's talk about your kid a little bit, because on Saturday we had last Saturday there was the fundraiser at Kicked Up Fitness, and we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple times that your son is autistic and had been diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And what's the deal with Kicked Up Fitness? Other than I know they kick tires and move buildings for exercise.
Well, that place has become like a second home for us, and
it's not CrossFit, right? It's a boxing gym.
They used to have a ring in it. They've gone towards the personal training route more so than the boxing route, and now they're targeting a lot of athletes, especially with the Naval Academy so close by, to really train athletes in the off season. When we're looking for something for my son, team sports just wasn't a good fit. At this time he was 7. Okay. He was going on 7, and team sports weren't working out. He wasn't good with the soccer field, wasn't good. I'm like, what can I do? And I was talking with a guy at work, and he said to me, one of the custodians, he said, have you ever tried boxing? I said, that's funny you say that. I said, because my grandfather was a boxer. I said, maybe there's something to it in the blood. And he said, Tony Acevedo just opened up a boxing gym in Annapolis. I said, really? Get out of here. He said, yeah, he's a Brooklyn guy. You get along great with him. Call him up. So I said, okay. So I called him up, and sure enough, we hit it off and brought my son in. And this was just a year before the diagnosis, but we knew we were, something. He's very high functioning, what they would label as Asperger's, you know. And it just clicked. And his trainer has been awesome with him. This guy Autumn Wolf, he's a great guy, just so patient. And I literally saw our son go from this. Not that he was ever unhappy. He's always been kind of a happy-go-lucky kid, but he just wasn't fitting in, with struggling with school, with social relationships, all that stuff, that comes along with it. Kids picking on him, bullying him in school all the time. He was a small. He's the wrong kid. I couldn't think
that's the wrong kid to pick on.
Yeah, well now it is definitely. I mean, he was the smallest kid in his class, always has been.
I was too.
And and then here we are 3 years later, and he literally broke my nose. He can punch so hard.
Michael just said that with pride. He goes, he broke my nose, and he just lit up in a smile.
Oh, yeah, just
look at that. It's all crooked. You see that?
Oh, totally cracked it one night. I mean, and it's funny because he saw his first fight there, and one of the kids, a local Annapolis kid, this kid Sean Cormier, he was fighting his first fight the night we were there, and him and my son, they clicked, they hit it off, and Sean was, he'd spar with him too and mess around with him, and so we ended up following Sean through the Golden Gloves for 2 years straight, and at the last Golden Gloves, we had Sean at Kicked Up to speak about it, and it was really cool because my son, he's got an Instagram account now, where they follow him on, he's a little contender. And so he's got all his boxing clips. It's all about his journey. He wants to go Golden Gloves, become the first kid with autism to win the Golden Gloves. So that's his thing. That's what he wants to do. And Sean's last fight, he lost his very last fight. And now Sean's got a few kids of his own. He comes right over to Carm, takes the medal off. It means dripping with sweat. Just got it. Comes over, puts it right around Carm's neck. He said, "This is for you." He said, "One day you win your own." I mean, these guys are so selfless. All the stuff that I wasn't getting support from, even from teachers, from everybody. I was getting it in the boxing gym. Those guys, they have big birthday party for him on his birthday. They'd surprise him. He comes in there. I mean, he's like one of the guys. He's a fixture there. They love him there. So yeah, having it at the boxing gym was perfect because I wanted it to be about him. So the guys, we had a big panel, and all the guys got to talk and share their stories about how the gym's become this family, and for us especially. And then in between talks, someone would go out, and Carm would hit the mitts with Coach Wolf and for the crowd, and everybody's clapping, getting all excited, and it is the funniest thing. Now, whenever those songs come on that was playing, when he just sits back in the car and gets a big grin on his face. He lights up.
That's awesome. So, and it was a fundraiser. I mean, we're looking to train this kid to be a Golden Gloves champion.
Yeah. We
and training is not cheap.
It's not cheap, and we're doing a little. It was a little side fundraising because we want to keep him going with it. But at the same token, we want to support the gym, and I know that the guys at the gym they support a lot of people. They've taken a lot of kids that they're living over in 20. They don't have any money.
I will
let them come in there for free.
Kicked Up does a lot of the charity stuff too as well. They've had a couple of fashion shows there and whatnot. They're a very community minded business for sure.
Yeah, and small business, good guys. Just very supportive.
There's something about being a dad that unless you've been a dad, where you feel that helplessness when there's something that's afflicting one of your kids that you can't fix. Son or daughter.
Oh, so much.
My mother always said that I'm one of 4. And I just always remember saying, there's never been a time in my life where I've not been worried about at least one of you. She goes, so as a parent.
And the youngest one is what, 30?
42, 41. And so, I mean, when you're talking about your kid, I just see you light up when you're talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I understand that the bullying, because I was a bullied kid. I was a little kid. And
it's terrible.
My son plays football, so no one picks on him. And I'm thinking he'll never know what it's like to have to kind of slink through the halls trying to avoid everybody, but I mean that helplessness you feel as a father that you can't go to school and protect him, you can't stop people from doing it, and especially if he's different than anyone else, and kids can sense that. Absolutely. And it was one of those things where my wife and I we battled with it at first, like what should we do with this, because there's a lot of people out there that they'll hide it, or they don't want to they want everything to be so inclusive, they don't want it to be different. And so kids sense that. Kids know. And so I just said, you know what? We had a talk with him one day, and I said, listen, because I do have a reach through some of my clientele base and so forth. And so I had a contact, reached out, and through Autism Speaks, and I said, we're gonna come out with this article, and we did, and it went viral. It was over 10,000 hits and all this stuff. The moment my son said, I believe in me, because that was the first thing I did when we got his diagnosis. I wrote it above his door. I painted it, I believe in me. And I said, I want you to look at that every day and, never doubt yourself. And so we came out with this blog, and it was funny. The blog touched some of the boxing fans, that big name boxers out there. Paulie Malignaggi reached out to me, and he wrote a nice thing for my book. And Sugar Shane Mosley. Oh man, Sugar Shane Mosley. That's pound for pound. He brought us out to L.A. To sit ringside next to 50 Cent, Lil Bow, all these guys. Sean Porter sat ringside for his last fight against Mayorga, and VIP treatment, everything. And so I took my son out. We had a blast. That's so cool. Yeah. So I mean, it's been this life-changing thing, and now we tell him that's your superpower, man. But that's your thing. You do things differently, but you also feel things differently. You remember things better than me. All that. And there's no right or wrong way to do it either. No. Do you box? I do. I never give him something that I myself wouldn't do. So that became our father-son thing. Damn, the kid's got to write a book. Every 3 days, man, we'd, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'd go to the gym. I'd go with my trainer. I'd go with, first it was Tony. Then Tony left for a little while overseas in Japan. So I went with Arthur Neal. Now he's training me. And Carm would go with his trainer, and then at the end we'd meet up, and he of course wants to kick my ass and spar and beat me, every day. Yeah, he wants to beat me up, and so that's what we do all week. That's our father-son thing. We're always in the gym together. My daughter wants to box. That's fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, we're almost out of time. Yeah, but before we go, one last thing. I need you to pull your cell phone out of your and I want you to go into the phone address book and type in the search box GOTT. You got John Gotti's phone number in there? Of course. Let's call him. No, I don't. Oh, come on! This would be. I'm not going to call the man. This would be great. No, I want you to know. He doesn't like being recorded anyway. I do not want any part of this. Yeah, he doesn't. But let me tell you, greatest guys in the world. When you read the stories. Everybody, it was the one thing that the lawyer told me when she read it. She said, I didn't know what to expect reading your story. She said, you totally
changed my mind on, a lot of the stuff that I had this preconceived notion over. And at the end of the day, it's all about, fathers and their sons and trying to be better than we are. And that's really what it comes down to.
So the book, Dual Lives, and they get that on Amazon.
From the streets to the studio.
Yeah.
Streets from the studio. Yeah. And webpage, you're at...
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, mbellart.com.
Yep, I'm at mbellart.com. Yeah.
Excellent. Facebook or
yeah, I'm all over at mbellart on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm mbellart live. But yeah.
Fascinating story. Amazing.
And I will say, I want to give you kudos because it doesn't just stop at the school and everything you do. I mean, I see you every year at the Irish Festival.
Oh yeah,
and you wrangle.
I work with the kids. I love working with them.
You wrangle up in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Usually on the hottest frickin' day of the year.
It always is, isn't it?
20 or 30 kids to go work the kids zone at the Irish Festival.
I do that just so that the kids have it's a little fundraiser for the kids so that we can have them painting on 4-foot canvases and oils and do all the things that, I know the colleges look for and for them to get big scholarships.
And $2 million a year in scholarship money.
Yeah, they've been rocking it.
And can't find any pizza.
Out of Southern High.
And I still can't find pizza, I know.
Well, I got a couple suggestions. I'll tell you off air.
Where's the place? What's it called?
La Piazza. That's over in Graysonville. And the guy's from Italy, or he was. So there was an accident. But so he's not there anymore. But
I think it's the water. I think that's the problem.
Everyone says that. I don't buy that.
I'm not positive, but I think
I'm into bread, and I can't. It's not that much water. But
I don't know. Everybody says that, but I don't know what it is.
It's either
that or there's nobody authentic to actually make something.
Well, that's a big thing. There's an article a few years ago that said the pizza belt was from Philly to Boston. But Boston's the Greek pizza, but it's like the I-95 corridor. And they said the rule was you had to have a 50-50 shot of getting decent pizza wherever you went. So don't say, I'm from Pittsburgh, try this place. It's got to be a 50-50 shot. And they said from Philly to Boston, 95 corridor. We are outside that, as you haven't noticed yet. So our pizza sucks.
Yeah, I've been spoiled. There's some places. John's guy, Saggio's up in Queens. Oh my God, it's the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
Danny's House of Pizza in Queens. That's in Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, Kew Gardens. That's where Kitty Genovese was killed in the parking lot. But the pizza's great.
All right, I need to get a list from you guys because Teresa and I are going up in November probably up to New York. So
nice.
we need to find out some of the good pizza spots.
Yeah.
But Michael Bell, thank you very much for coming
awesome.
here.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Congratulations on Dual Lives from the streets to the studio.
Thank you.
And you should put some 3 dots after that. See where the hell you go from here. And congratulations to your son, man. That's and I hope that he is super successful in his Golden Gloves.
He's trying.
Quest.
He's fighting hard.
You ought to come to the Navy boxing matches in
I've seen those guys are great because those guys came over to Kicked Up Fitness and did a fight night too. It was the brigade guys versus the local guys, and it was heated.
It's February 17th this year.
What's that?
February 17th this year. The brigade.
Is it?
Yep. So we're going.
Yeah, we'll have to go. I'll have to go to that.
All right, we'll take you. We'll find.
Yeah, we'll go. We'll have some
find
fun.
a pizza place. We'll go.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
You were on.
Whether it's Main Street, your street, or any street in the county that we all live in and love and call Anne Arundel, it's a special place. But part of living here is having a bank that provides what you need when you need it. So when your plans and dreams call for a bank, turn to us, your neighbor. We're Severn Bank, supporting the community that supports us. I'm Alan Hyatt, chairman of Severn Bank, and it's our honor to be the bank that serves the people of Anne Arundel County. One thing that we never forget is that as a member of this community, it's our responsibility to be committed to helping you and our county thrive. Like you, we live here, we work here, and we play here. Severn Bank, we're here with you.
Online at severnbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Severn Bank is a trade name used by Severn Savings Bank.
There you go. Michael Bell out of Southern High School, artist to the mob. What a great guy. Intimidating as hell looking, nicest guy on the planet. His kid is great. The work that he does is great. And I've talked to several students out of Southern, and there's not one of them that says that he's not the greatest teacher around. Definitely check it out. Check out the show notes for all of the links on where to get in touch with him, where to buy his book, everything else there. Find out a little bit more about this fascinating character living right amongst us down in South County there. Hey, we've got a few exciting episodes that are going to be coming up. Pretty soon we're going to be talking with Commissioner Kevin Davis out of the Baltimore City Police Department and see how things are going up there in Baltimore City. We'll be talking with County Executive Kevin Kamenetz, who is going to be running for governor of the state of Maryland next year, and he's the Baltimore County Executive currently. Former Anne Arundel County Executive John Leopold will be on the show as well, and I do believe he will be running for a delegate seat up in Pasadena next year. Of course, we're going to have some follow-up to the Annapolis City elections, which are coming up as well. If you have missed a few of the episodes, some of the good ones that are really popular were the one we talked about Ted Levitt and what the former owner of Chicken Roosts is doing now, and his 52 years of working at Chicken Roosts, serving the people of Annapolis, the visitors of Annapolis, and everything else. Really good episode. Go check that out. Also, the one with County Executive Steve Shue. And if you are a voter in the city of Annapolis, do go back and check out our interviews and our conversations with Mayor Mike Panelides and Gavin Buckley. We had several with each of them, as well as the crab cakes that we did, which were just 20 to 30 minute long conversations with every aldermanic candidate. We did miss Larry Clausen, but we are going to get him before the election, so definitely check back and look for information on Larry Clausen. And finally, I'm looking at my notes on my paper here. It says DNB. Okay, now what that's all about is that Ion Annapolis has started a daily podcast. It's a short 10-minute hit-and-run daily news brief. That's what DNB stands for. You can subscribe to it. You can search for it everywhere you do your searches. But at 10 minutes, it releases every day at noon, Monday through Friday. It has 3 or 4 top stories really specific to the Annapolis Anne Arundel County area. We've got local sports from Kevin Chaney, including high school sports, college sports locally, and we touch on professional sports, but not a real big focus on that because we want to really keep it local. We've got local weather forecast, and it's being forecasted with DMV weather right outside of Annapolis and Cape St. Clair. Have local opinion and resurrecting what I used to do on WRNR. Every Friday, we put together our list of the top events for the coming week. Comes to you every day, Monday through Friday at noon. Subscribe, give it a rating, give it a review. I would appreciate it. And definitely check out the Daily News Brief. And this is John Fernay with the absent Tim Hamilton with the Maryland Crabs podcast, and we will see you next week.
This has been the Maryland Crabs podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home.